Gardner's is honored to be Lancaster's favorite mattress store 15 years in a row, voted a favorite every year since 2010. Every day of the year we work to be your favorite mattress store, and we earn the right to be a favorite with you, our next customer, with the way we help you wake up happy and find the right fit. And remember, it's not a mattress until you wake up happy on one from Gardner's Mattress & More. Double Deal savings events happening now.
You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting here with me, as always, is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Unfortunately, Justin, this is our last time here on the program for Season 11, winding down. Episode 19 will be our final broadcast about the 2025 Wilson football season. The Bulldogs unfortunately fell to number 1 seed Central York on Friday night, 42-7. And we're here to talk a little bit about that game, kind of just look at the season in general and just put a bow on it. And obviously we're not going away for good. We'll be back in a few months to kick off season 12 in 2026. We've got a couple good ideas and possible guests for our off-season shows, and if enough people are interested both in tuning in and the guests are up for it, hey, maybe we end up doing one of those once a month in the winter and spring before we really dive into things over the summer. We'll see. But before we get to that, let's talk about the end of 2025.
Yeah, like you said, Friday didn't go the way we would have liked, but you know what? That's kind of what happens at this point. I was talking to someone just the other day. I said, not making the playoffs, I don't even factor that in honestly anymore. With the expanded playoffs, like we've mentioned before, when it used to be 16 teams
is dicey,
when 16 teams made it in all of District 3, that was one thing. Now, you've got 12 make it in some and 10 in others. And so all this other stuff. But, assuming you make the playoffs, I was like, only 6 teams are going to end with a win.
Right.
That's the reality of it. And while not the outcome we wanted, the guys fought hard all year. They played hard all year. Hey, sometimes it just doesn't go your way.
Yeah, and look, 9 wins a season. Look, you're continuing the streak, both non-losing and winning seasons. That's one of the goals each year. You beat Mifflin. That's also one of the goals each year. I mean, you said it. 9 wins is nothing to hang your head at.
No.
It's fantastic. There are a lot of teams around the state, not just in Berks County or around the Lancaster-Lebanon League, that would do a lot of things to get to 9 wins and be ecstatic about that. But obviously the expectations in and around Wilson and with so many teams here in Berks LL is double-digit wins and win a championship, fight for the district title. And Wilson did all that, came down to the last game in the regular season. We're very close to possibly pulling it off, despite not playing a perfect game.
Right.
Friday night, needed to unseat one of the preseason favorites. Spoiler, guess what? The 2 preseason favorites are meeting in the championship.
Right, the 2 teams that everybody all year was like, hey, these
2
the
teams
top
are the
2
best
teams in the district. Are the 2 teams left in the district.
And we saw why on Friday night.
Right.
Central York was very strong, very balanced all around.
Yep.
Offensively, defensively, special teams, they have a lot of pieces there that can maybe challenge Harrisburg for that title. Harrisburg's looking for their 5th in a row. The only thing I saw, thank you to friend of the show and sponsor Andy Herr for pointing out that only COVID has been able to slow down the Harrisburg Cougars in the last 6 years, because they were, aiming for a title during the 2020 season, the COVID year that got them into the playoffs, but then kicked them out of the playoffs,
Right.
which saw Central York win their only district championship and district championship game appearance to date up until now. So, Harrisburg's been on a roll. So, and to be the best, you got to beat the best, and just came up a little bit short this time. Central York has a fantastic program they've established there over the last 6 or 7 years. And we're going to talk about that game here shortly. But up first, for the final time in 2025 at least, I do want to thank our Season 11 sponsors, starting as always with my dad and sister at May's Sandwich Shop. Check us out online at ordermays.com or visit us in West Lawn on 2525 Penn Avenue. And I appreciate them supporting us like always. And Justin, we don't have the great content to post of us outside Gardner's Mattress and More like we had discussed driving right past on our way to Central York. Just traffic and time wasn't on our side.
Right.
Would have loved to be able to take the selfie and blast that out there to promote Jeff Janakovo and Gardner's Mattress and More and all the stuff that they are doing down in Lancaster near Park City. Check them out online at gardnersmattressandmore.com. And we thank Jeff for his support this season, as well as Steve Simons and ssfirstmechanical.com. Check out SNS Mechanical. Once again, saw the truck sitting there on my driving around the greater Reading area. Yep. So always like to see sponsors out and about, and we want to spread their name on the program as well. So thank you to Steve and SNS Mechanical. Had a nice talk with his son Preston, a junior on the team this year. I mentioned him on the Hempfield broadcast that this is only really his second year playing football and already a varsity starting offensive lineman. So he's got a lot of potential in front of him. I had a good talk with him after the loss Friday night and looking forward to what he's able to do with his senior season on tap now. So thank you to Steve and SNS Mechanical. And also, Steve is part of the ownership group of the Valley Bar and Grill. He's working out there and wants us to help spread the word about their establishment.
I saw the trucks parked there today. There were a bunch of people there working today.
Yeah, so that's going to be at the old barbecue pit. Yep. So a lot of work being done there. I think the hope is to open sometime in early 2026. If things break right, maybe it'll be next month, but they're definitely aiming for the new year. So check out the Valley Bar and Grill up near or where the barbecue pit used to be. All right. Also want to thank Eric Weiser from Berkshire Hathaway Home Sale Realty. Eric Weiser. You can visit him at ericweiserhomes.com, and you can give his office or cell a call. They are up there on the screen for you. And we thank Eric for being along for the ride this 2025 season. And last one here to highlight, Mike Drago, MikeDragosports.com, still riding away with all the action around LL Burks. I think Twin Valley is the last local team left standing, and they'll have coverage of that game coming up this week. And a lot of postseason articles, especially when the awards start rolling out, will be flooded his website, Mike Drago, MikeDragosports.com. Thank you so much for supporting the show this year. Also, thanks to the Miller family, the aforementioned Andy Herr, the Challenger family, and our 2 anonymous donors. We couldn't do this without you. I very much appreciate it. I'll throw up a date for the next show. It could be in flux, but that's usually where we aim to do it, is the last Sunday in February. A few months removed from the season, and we're ready to rock and roll. We miss high school football at that point, and we'd like to talk about it again.
We're celebrating Eagles back-to-back championships.
Well, I think you and some of the listening audience would be happy about that.
Yeah, you also know I say that tongue-in-cheek as I'm just maybe speaking it into existence.
Sure. Well, it worked last year, so
exactly.
Good luck to you. All right, so let's get back to our Central York discussion. The game was broadcast on WEEU, and we thank them for covering the game. Always appreciate when it's a road game because, Wilson Media Productions does a great job at home, and WEEU has been at a few of the home games as well. But WMP doesn't travel, WEEU does. So it was nice for those that couldn't attend or live out of state to be able to tune in and watch this. So we thank WEEU and their sponsors for bringing the game to you Friday night. Just Didn't go our way, Justin. Just
No.
was a rough night. It started
Right.
from the opening.
Yeah.
The defense couldn't get a stop.
Right.
Immediately, Central York drove down the field.
Yeah, Central York was able to go down the field on the opening drive and get a touchdown. And then we weren't really able to get it started on offense, and then they got a second quick score. So being down 2 scores relatively quickly was
To a very talented team.
right was tough. It was going to be an uphill battle no matter what, because like we said, it was a tough team, tough game. Like, and again, that's not a surprise. Like,
Right.
you're at this point, it's going to be, it's going to be tough for everybody. What are you, like, 16 teams in the state at that point?
Yes, it was a state Sweet 16.
Right.
Yep.
So state level Sweet 16, it's going to be tough. Like that. That's just the way it works. And so getting off to the slow start or the hole from the start is just going to make it harder. That being said, Wilson battled, and
They did.
When they got the ball again, they were able to, get the next score. To cut into that lead, and you start to think, oh man, if we can go here, but then
Things started to
right,
unravel.
it was a few minutes before half,
Yeah.
and the last few minutes before half, when we could have taken like a neutral, like if nothing bad happens or nothing good happens,
Right, just keep it
right,
where it was
we're
at.
at a good spot, down 1 score, but. Bad stuff happened, and then more bad stuff happened,
Yeah.
and we were down 3 scores
Right.
instead of 1.
So
at half, and
4 minutes
so it
into
was
the
tough.
game, Central York went up 7-0. Bulldogs had to punt after just 3 plays, gaining a yard. Central York, Justin mentioned this, went up 14-0. Central York scored in just a few plays. This second one was a Legend Johnson 34-yard touchdown run. 14-0 is tough. And doing that in less than a minute, 3 plays, 69 yards, you're like, wow, they're up 14-0, and we're 5 minutes into the game at this point or whatever. But needed a response, and the Bulldogs offense rose to the occasion. Then they got to the first score 14-0, but they started with it with 4th and 4 from the Central York 19. And Mason found Damian Greer for a 16-yard gain, and then the next play from the Central York 3, Mike Glover rushed in for the touchdown. You get it to 14-7. You
Right.
prove, hey, we can drive it on this
right.
team. We can score. We can put up points. But and then the defense got a 3-and-out. They only gave up 2 yards.
Right.
Less than 2 minutes of clock
Well,
went
and
off.
is that when we tried the onside kick?
Yes, you're
Yeah.
right. Yes, it was. Which you called.
Yeah.
You texted me. Now would be a great time for an onside kick.
Right. Not because we can't, but like they had 3 electric guys across the back.
Right.
Like they had 3 guys back, not 1. So they had 3 guys across the back. We're not kicking it out the end zone, most likely. And that's not a knock. Like, it's just, but like, all right, so they're probably going to get a return. So if we kick it short to like the 35 or so, like I'm like, look, if we're talking 10 yards of difference, I'm taking my chances with the onside kick.
Right.
Like that's so. Yeah, I didn't know that, but like then we tried it and it was there.
It was there. It just
there.
did. It
Ball-
only went
and-
about
and
7
it
or
was
8
rolling,
yards.
and then it bounced back too.
it
Like
did, yeah.
so it was it was just unlucky,
Yeah, it was a good try.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what do you
It was
have
good
to
look,
lose?
good try.
Because
and-
think, if you recover, big if, and I have no idea how the rest of the game's going,
Right.
but you just scored a touchdown, you got the ball back in their territory. What if you drive down and score again?
Right.
Now it's a new game.
Right.
So
Right.
a lot of what ifs.
Yeah, honestly, it was like literally an unlucky bounce. It looked like it was going slow, and then it got to about 9 yards and bounced back to 8.
Yeah,
right,
you're-
yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it was a good try by Preston
Yep.
and the kicking team being there for a potential recovery.
Yep.
Good call by Coach Doms and Coach Steinmeier, but just didn't quite get there. However, the defense stood tall.
Yeah.
Gave up only 2 yards, forced a punt. It was down inside the 5, so we had a long way to go.
Right.
And now you're talking about flipping field position,
Right.
down a score. They did get a first down. They did, but they did have to punt eventually. Went through 4 minutes of clock, but you're like, all right, 14-7. they get the ball just past midfield.
Right.
But we need a stand here, and
Right.
unfortunately, after a few good plays here and there, only giving up 4 yards, 7 yards, 1 yard, they had gotten down the field far enough that Deuce Johnson scored from 16 yards out. Now Ethan Harding did block the extra point. They were getting a lot of pressure on the field goal attempts. They've got a great young kicker. This sounds like a broken record if you listen to the show the last 4 years when we talk about Central York. Matthew Parker was a freshman on the team that lost to Wilson in 2021. He actually missed a field goal at the very end of the game that would have tied the game and sent it to overtime, but he missed it. Wilson won. Fast forward to now, he's the backup kicker at Penn State.
Right.
And they've got another great sophomore kicker, which I talked to one of their, a York area media guy, student media guy, and he was talking to me all about the two kickers and said how good this current kicker is. And obviously Wilson knew that too because they were trying to get as much pressure as possible to get in there and block those kicks. And it worked on Central York's third touchdown. Ethan Harding blocked Brady Burt's kick. So Central York leads 20-7. Bulldogs put a bit of a drive together and get down into Central York territory, but eventually turn over on downs on 4th and 9 from the 39. But now there's only there's 90 seconds left or something, like maybe it might even be less than a minute. But you're thinking, all right, we need to get into half at 20-7. 2-possession game. You got to keep it to that. And in any sport, don't let them score right before halftime. It's never good for morale. And unfortunately, they were able to score. The drive started with 34 seconds to go. Legend Johnson rushed for 11 yards. Now, Brooklyn Nace was sacked on the next play by Malachi Tolles. But then right up the middle, Legend Johnson busted through for 46 yards and the score. They go for a 2-point conversion after the blocked kick the last time, and Brooklyn Nace finds Brendan Smith, and we go into half 28-7. So a 3-possession game, and that's tough. That's tough. Yeah, that is a tough
You go
play.
from a few minutes before half thinking, all right, it's 14-7. Best case scenario is we score to tie it, and then we get the ball to start the second half. Worst case scenario, you're thinking, oh, we don't score, but they score, and then we're down 2 possessions. And in reality, they scored twice, and we didn't score, and then next thing you know, we're down 3 possessions.
Yeah,
and not that it was insurmountable. We were getting the ball to start the second half, but it did have that feel of, ooh, we're in trouble.
The 4th and 9 sack at their 39 was rough. To give them the ball back there right before half. Because even if you don't convert and don't have a chance to kick a field goal or score a touchdown, at least it's a 2-possession game.
Right.
Or if you do go down and you finish the rest of the clock but get some points, whether it's 3 or 6, you also get the ball to start the second half. You got that middle 8 portion that they talk about you get 2 possessions. And you score on both of those, guess what? Now the game is at least a lot closer, tied, or you could be winning with the block extra point.
Right.
But yeah, that was disastrous, giving up the touchdown with 30-some seconds to play.
Right.
Or the drive started with 34 seconds to play, and they scored with just a few ticks before halftime. I think Wilson got the kickoff and had to run a play right before halftime.
I think there were only 4 seconds
It was
left.
4 or 5 seconds. So the Bulldogs did get the kickoff in the second half, put together a nice drive, 12 plays, 46 yards, but once they got to the red zone, Carell was thrown for a 6-yard loss. There was an incompletion. Then there was an illegal formation. Then Mason got sacked, and they were facing 4th and 24.
Right.
Obviously, you got to go for it.
Right.
You've been pushed too far out of field goal range, and you're down 3 scores. The pass fell incomplete. They did force a Central York punt the next series, but then Wilson punted again. And then finally, with just a few minutes left in the third quarter, Central York is able to score on another big play. This one to the speedster, Brendan Smith, 51 yards with under a minute to play in the third quarter. This one put the Panthers up 35-7. Bulldogs got the ball, ran out the rest of the clock in the third quarter. And then it's fourth quarter. You're down 4 scores at this point. You got to try to catch him off guard. And then on 3rd and 1 from Central York's 44, they tried a little bit of a trick play, which was set up and was there, but the pass was a little bit low and was picked off in return for a touchdown.
Right.
Hey,
Yeah,
it
happens.
What are you going to do?
Right. We were at the point where we needed to roll the dice, right? And when you roll it, sometimes
you're
it
down
doesn't
4
come up.
scores with
Right.
less than 12
Sometimes
minutes
it
to
doesn't
play.
come up the way you want it to.
No.
Like,
But it was there. I remember seeing it set up, and I'm like, oh, he's open.
yeah.
And the pass was just a little low, and
Right.
Who was it? Morgan for Central
Right.
York picked it off, returned it, and that ended up would be the final and last score, 42-7. Bulldogs would have a 13-play drive, take up 8 minutes of game clock,
Right.
which if the score was closer would have been excellent.
Right.
That would have been a fantastic drive. They flipped it from their own 27 down to the Central York 15, turned it over on downs there, and then despite mercy rule in effect, being up 42-7,
Right.
Central York kept their starters in
Right.
with a huge game on the docket next week,
Right.
and weren't kneeling the ball.
No.
They were going. They went from their own 28 down to 1st and goal at the 4.
Right.
After 2 big rushes by Legend Johnson for 29 yards and Deuce Johnson for 39 yards. And right before their 1st and goal play from the 4, I was down there, and the referees talking to each other were saying, they're just taking a knee here, right? And the other one said, well, yeah, hopefully they should. And then as they're getting in their positions, they can see that they're running out in a formation, and both of them look at each other and go, nope, they're not taking a knee. And they ran a play, and on that play, there were 2 penalties. The play went for a touchdown, but it was called back because of a holding penalty. And I believe there was also a personal foul.
It was unsportsmanlike
conduct. So that pushed in the 1st and goal from the 27. They then got an illegal procedure penalty as well.
Because they had 12 guys on the field when they went to kneel it.
Okay.
Which their fans were booing.
Right.
I'm like, you're not allowed to have 12 guys. Like that's not a boo-worthy call.
No, it's
like
not.
if you want to call booing the holding, like whatever, like
Yeah, so
that's a different conversation. But like that one
Yeah.
is the most clear. Like
Right.
you had 12
So
guys.
when it was 1st and goal from their own 32, from the 32,
Right.
from Wilson's 32, that's when they did take a knee and
Right.
ran out the clock on the rest of the game. I know there was some discussion online, and I'm sure there was in the stands, about the necessity of them trying to score with their first team.
yeah.
To me, it's ridiculous.
Right.
But I'm looking at it more of a coaching perspective of, why am I putting my starters in a
Right.
position to
Right.
get injured
If you've got-
when it doesn't matter?
If you've got your backups in there and they're carving
Sure.
through, hey, that's not your problem. That's you
Right.
know, it's not your job to tackle your own guys,
No.
right? Like, but like when you've got your studs out there, who
Right.
you need next week,
who you need next
You
week.
need next
That's
week.
the biggest. Like,
Right, like-
I'm not getting getting
right?
into like
or
a
even if it's
sportsmanship
the
thing.
state championship game, like okay, like this, hey, like. It is what it is. We want to get these guys. They want to make the most of the experience. Like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever. That's your call. You got there. You earned it.
Right, and-
but
and
like,
look-
there's more on their on their goals list. Their goal list didn't end with beat Wilson in the semifinal. Like they have bigger things next week. It just surprised me.
Yeah, well, it really surprised. And maybe there's something like they were trying to get him
Hey.
rushing or
Right.
touchdown. I don't know.
Right.
Like they had a reason.
Right.
Maybe they did want to just stick it to us.
Right. Hey,
Maybe.
okay.
Okay.
I did immediately in my mind start thinking of when Coach Doms pulled Iggy. Now this was a while ago against Central York. I
Against
believe.
Central York, yeah.
When Iggy
'Cause
could
he had
have
6 touchdowns.
Iggy could have had a year's worth of rushing yards
He
and
barely
touchdowns
played in
for
the second
most
half.
people. Like, yeah, I don't think he played it all in the second half because I think they wanted to go for it. And I remember at halftime they're like, "No, you're done," because, like,
This is in a playoff game.
right. And he had, I don't know, he had like close to like it felt like he had almost 300 yards. And
Yeah, I
6
forget what he
touchdowns.
did. I mean, he
something
had 6
absurd.
touchdowns for sure because
Right.
everyone wanted him to break Shady McCoy's record.
Right,
Bishop McDevitt,
right.
LaShawn McCoy had 6 in a playoff game as well. No, Iggy, I don't think played at all in the second half.
Right.
But of course, we're talking about being up by that much at halftime, not
Right,
with a few minutes
right,
left to
right.
play. But look, I know there were people upset about it. I know people were like, why would you run up the score, especially when you know you were going to play next year.
Right.
For sure. It never looks good. I mean, you talk about, we alluded to York High beating Northeastern 91-0. Like, that's hard to do even with your backups in.
Right.
That's hard to get to. But it just didn't make any sense to me. And even if you're like, oh, well, he needs this many yards in the next 2 games to set the school record, I'm like, that's great to do that. But what if someone blew out their knee on that last drive? It was mind-boggling to me that
or if
they were still
gets
in
an
there.
unsportsmanlike, or what if they got 2 and
What
now
if
they
they
have
got
to
2?
sit out?
Because guess what? Your quarterback just got
1.
1. Right. And then when they threw another flag, and I was like, oh, did he just get another foul that will push him from playing next week?
Right.
That's like, it just was wild to me that they were still in and on that last series.
Right.
With what was at stake, because they want to go and win a district championship.
Right.
And if you lose one of those 3 guys, you're severely hampering yourself from doing that. So, yeah, it was weird, but whatever. We move on. And let's look at a stats breakdown of the game for our Wilson Bulldogs here. And first up, we'll start with rushing. Carell finished with 14 carries for 46 yards. Mike Glover was next on the ground, 27-yard rushing on 5 carries, and he had the Bulldogs' lone touchdown. Monty Greer carried 6 times for 23 yards. Mason Young completed 16 of 31 passes for 201 yards. And receiving-wise, it was Jaden Carpenter leading the way with 5 for 52. Mike Glover also had 3 for 44. Akings caught 3 out of the backfield for 31, as did Monty Greer from his running back spot. He had 2 for 37. Damian Greer also hauled in 2 for 22, including the 16-yarder on 4th down to set up the Bulldogs' touchdown. And while the Bulldogs were trying to play catch-up, Braden Farrell had a nice catch over the middle for a 15-yard gain. All right, defensively speaking, we had another nice game from junior inside linebacker E.J. Brownback. He had 9 total tackles, 1 for loss on a sack. Junior safety Monty Greer had 4 tackles, as did senior defensive tackle Malachi Tolles, who also had a sack and tackle for loss. Jackson Becker playing some defense and special teams with 2 tackles, as did Carell Akings. And Mike Glover, and then a whole host of Bulldogs chipped in with 1 or 2, including Ethan Harding, Matthew Wyatt, Braden Farrell, Chase Herb, Damian Greer, Mel Gaston, and Jaden Carpenter. So really, for Central York on offense, it was the big name guys. They got it done for them for sure. Especially Legend Johnson, he was the one that hurt Wilson the most.
Yeah, I think he had like 140 in the first half.
He had 171 total, 3 touchdowns. Deuce Johnson had 39 and a score. Brooklyn Nace didn't get to scramble or do much with his legs, but he was very good passing the ball, 9 of 11 for 138 yards and a score. One of them was a 51-yarder. So really, it felt like Legend Johnson was the one that hurt the Bulldogs the most. Now, they didn't necessarily have to force Brooklyn Nace to throw the ball a ton with the way the game went. But, good players. I was about to say all 3 of them are seniors, but that is incorrect. Legend Johnson is a junior, so the running back will be back and will be at Gursky in Week 9 next year. So hopefully we can keep him to less than 171 and 3 touchdowns the next time we see them. But Brooklyn Nace and Brendan Smith will be gone. Brendan Smith had 86 yards and a score, including that big 51-yarder. Other than that, he didn't really look anywhere else. And Brendan Smith was a matchup nightmare because of where they lined him up and moved him around. And if he made a guy miss, you better hope someone else was in the area because he was fast.
Yeah.
He was fast. So, that's about it for the discussion on Central York. We do want to announce our player of the game. Unfortunately, not a lot of big plays or highlights for the Bulldogs, but we thought with the way the game went and the fight throughout, we thought that Mason Young once again had a very nice game to cap his senior year. 16 of 31, over 200 yards passing, and really making plays with his legs or keeping plays alive. He didn't do a lot of rushing, but he was moving all around the pocket when he was under pressure, and he was able to keep plays alive and find open receivers to try to extend some drives. So, in a big-time disappointing loss like this, it's hard to find the statistical standout there, the guy that we thought played the best, but we think Mason was the guy against Central York. We thought he had a pretty solid game.
Yeah.
And honestly, overall, didn't get into the end zones through the air to work on that. But I did want to pull up here the career information or the single season information that we talked about last week when it comes to where Mason is with his single season performance, because it's been a pretty good one. He's had a very strong season. So let me pull up that right now. So that was our career. Let's get single season. All right. So most passing yards in a season. I had this up last week. All right. So that is where the record book stands entering this year. And I do have the information. Okay, here we go. So I have the end of season stats for the Bulldogs. We can highlight some things. We'll start here with Mason since we were talking about him. So Mason finished 146 completions to 224 attempts. Completion percentage 65.2, and so last week he was 2 yards shy of 2,000.
Right.
And he threw for 201. So he is 1 yard shy of 2,200. So he finishes with 2,199 yards, which pushes him to third place all time in single season. Just behind Tommy Hunsaker, who 2 seasons ago had 2,231 yards passing in his senior season of 2023. And then Zach Zweizig is the program record holder for passing yards in one season, and that is 2,326 back in 2009. So Mason, getting into the top 3 in single season passing. So congratulations to him on that achievement. Look at a few of these other, mention a few of the other records here, or not records, just how people did on the course of the season. So Correll was your leading rusher for the year. He gained 676 yards on the ground and scored 11 touchdowns. Monty Greer was next with 266 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns, followed by your quarterback Mason Young, 245 yards and 3 touchdowns. Mike Glover had 216 yards and 2 scores, and then Ethan Harding rounds up the top 5 with 125 yards and 3 touchdowns. We talked about passing from Mason. Well, his favorite target this year, receptions-wise, actually was a tie. Jaden Carpenter and Mike Glover both caught 35 passes. However, it was Jaden Carpenter leading the way in receiving yards with 668 and 11 touchdowns.
11 receiving touchdowns in high school football.
11 receiving touchdowns in 12 games.
Yeah, that's wild.
So a fantastic year from Jaden Carpenter. I shouldn't say this, because then if it doesn't happen, I don't want to say people will be mad at me. It should just illuminate how ridiculous some of the award choices tend to be. But Jaden Carpenter should absolutely be on first team LL receiver.
He should.
I think they take 3, don't they?
Right. And like you said, we preface this. You and I have nothing to do with that.
We have nothing to do with it.
And we make it known. Like a few years ago, this is, to me, was insane. Cam's junior year, how Cam Jones was not the kick returner, punt returner of the year. And I'm like, how?
Right, yeah.
How? He had more like punt return touchdowns than like everyone else on the list combined. Like, I'm just like...
And there'll be 2 opportunities, because there is a Burks one, and then there's an LL one.
Yes, Jaden, 11 receiving touchdowns.
Right. Well, so my thing is, I think there are 3 spots on first team.
Okay.
Because you have a Ryan Abrams.
Yep.
And Darius Dixon.
Absolutely.
Both of them statistically did more than Carpenter, who had a fantastic year.
Right.
However, like you said, 11 touchdowns, that's probably second or third in Section 1.
Right.
And honestly, I think I was pretty sure that in terms of touchdowns, possibly yardage, Carp was top 3 to 5 across all 37 teams in the LL League. So yeah, we'll see. But he had a fantastic season.
He'd have our vote.
He would have our vote to be on. Well, I would. Those were the three I would pick.
Absolutely.
Abrams, Dixon, and Carpenter are your three.
And we saw all the teams.
Best wide receivers.
We saw all the teams. They were the three best wide receivers in the section.
Yep. Exactly.
Yep.
So we'll see. Those awards will be out over the next few weeks. I think at least one will be out before Thanksgiving, maybe both.
Yeah.
I'll be busy with my graphics and getting ready to congratulate everyone on a whole bunch of stuff. And I expect to hear Carpenter, Glover, for sure getting recognition. Quarterback of the year is probably going to be close in Section 1 between Kenneth and Mason.
Right.
There's definitely a lot of Wilson players that are going to get a lot of recognition. And I would think defensively there would be a bunch. I would definitely expect Brownback and Herb to have their name selected.
Again, I sometimes feel like we get guys there who are underappreciated. I think it was last year, Cam Zulinger.
Cam Zulinger got the shaft. Yeah.
Right. We couldn't believe
it. It does happen every year. I hope it doesn't happen this year.
Right.
And when we have our show at the end of February, we'll recap this. We'll put up the graphics I make and congratulate the 2025 team
Absolutely.
for their selections. There's also, I think, 2 academic selections that come out. You know, maybe a few guys will be able in discussion for the player of the year. We'll see. But defensively, I think E.J. Brownback will definitely get a nod there for a Section 1 first team. Chase Herb, I think, is definitely in that discussion. You know, Brownback had 117 tackles this year. Chase Herb had 60 tackles this season from a safety spot. But Braden Farrell had 49 tackles this year. Mike Glover had 44 tackles. Harding had 39. He had 4.5. Malachi Tolles had 43 tackles and 4.5 sacks. He led the team in that. Brownback was next with 4, but Malachi had 4.5 himself. Brownback had 3 interceptions. Carpenter had 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery for a touchdown. So Jaden could also see a two-way nod.
Brownback having 3 interceptions
and 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns.
Oh,
so we do get Coach Perry Andy has to come on and defend his defensive backs. No pick sixes from his DBs, which Coach Wolver liked to point out. They were all by linebackers, 3 by Brownback and 1 by Farrell and 1 by Wyatt. So just funny. So yeah. You have anything else to add statistically or about the season in general?
It was one of those where, it had its ups and downs, but like, again, proud of the team for kind of how they went through, and there were a lot of good, we were talking with one of our other friends, a different sport, different school this weekend, and yeah, it stinks when it comes to an end,
Yeah.
But like as time moves on, right, as you get away from it, you start to look back, and you'll have more of the good memories than the negatives. And that loss to Central York will probably hold a place, especially for those seniors, for a long time.
It's definitely being held on by the juniors right now.
Oh, I was gonna say with your affinity to Central Dolphins, but it's one of those where that's just natural. But like, you'll have a lot of the good memories for a long time, and we talk to the guys who have moved on and playing college and all that stuff, and they can have a great time, and it can be a great experience, but they're like, there's nothing like that high school football. I don't know that they're being polite about it. They're trying to be real about it without maybe scaring kids away from playing college ball. Right, because you want to make them aware, but you also don't want to negative. It's just different. Sorry.
The word they use all the time is it's just different. That's what I remember talking to Justin Weller.
That's the one
when
that
it
comes
came
to
back
mind
from
all the
Penn
time.
State.
Yep.
It's just different.
Right, and he said it's not that it's bad.
No,
it's not a negative.
But
it's just,
everyone says it's not the same.
Right.
Because you're not playing with guys from your hometown that you play. I'm seeing all the parents post about the seniors that are now done playing for Wilson their time at Lincoln Park and Van Reed.
Right.
And now this team has been together by and large for at least 6-7 years.
Most of these kids have been going to school together since they were in kindergarten.
Right.
It's crazy.
So it's when you get to college, big or small, it's just different. It's a collection of people from around the country, around the world now, and it's not the same feel.
Right.
It's just not.
Right.
So, yeah, cherish those memories. Hold on to 2025, and we're not completely done celebrating because, like I just said to Justin, when we get these awards out, obviously they'll be plastered across social media. But when we kick off with episode 1 of season 12, Justin and I will start off by highlighting award winners, milestones, because I know there's a bunch of people that are making the Century Club, and all those good things that'll be given out at the banquet. Like I'll try to have all that to the first 10 minutes of the show in February. We'll give one last congratulations and thanks to the seniors and the members of the 2025 team.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so we have about 15 minutes to go. I do want to update everyone on 2026 because as of today, I'm already looking forward to the 2026 season. That's just the way my mind works, and we have updates on the schedule.
All right, it's the second half of November. We've got to move on.
Right. It's 2 days after the last game. It's now 2026. Right. No, we have updates to the future schedule. Yeah. So I want to get that out there for everyone. The big change here is for certain that Muhlenberg is game 3. That is up on the schedule sheet. We talked about it last week, but I hadn't updated the graphic. The graphic is updated here, but there's actually another change that came through on the schedule site, and that is that the Reading High game has now been moved to Gursky and not at Shirk Stadium like it was supposed to be. This does bring Wilson's section schedule to 3 home, 3 away, whereas with Reading High away originally, it was 2 home, 4 away, focused on the Section 1 teams. So I don't know if that was an oversight, if Wilson talked to Reading and LL to say, hey, could we get that at home? Because if that's not at home, we could possibly only have 3 home games, depending on what happens with the last non-league game, which is still TBD. That's game 2 on 9-4.
Just to be clear, I feel like there'd be lots of people who would be like, oh, well, the year Wilson has 3 home games. Well, lots of other people, not Wilson people. But the year Wilson has 7 home games, people are like, oh, they got 7 home games this year.
How many people asked Muhlenberg why they had 9 home games this year or whatever it was?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Generally 5-5 is obviously what you want, but you might get a year or two here and there where it's 4-6, 6-4, 7-3, 3-7.
Don't want that.
You don't want that, and that's only really what McCaskey.
Yeah.
And Muhlenberg, like it's usually renovations. It's usually stadium issues that lead to this. I think it happened to Lebanon this year as well. So it happens where it's a weird, you may only have 0, 1, 2, 3 home games, but there's usually extenuating circumstances. So obviously Wilson doesn't want to have more road games and home games, at least not by a bigger split than 1. So the Reading High game was moved to Gursky. No other changes have been input, but as of right now, the Bulldogs have 3 straight home games, game 4, 5, and 6. Manheim Township, Reading High, Cedar Crest. So the first 3 Section 1 games are all at home as of right now. Right. We've already seen it change once. It could change again. I don't see that happening anymore. The only change left for the next 2-year cycle is who is going to be game 2. It's listed as to be determined. There's options out there. By the postings available, that team would like to host, which means Wilson would be on the road, and that's where you would then start your season with 3 away games, but then have 3 home games right in the middle, but only have 4 home games overall. It would be a 4-6 schedule if that game 2 is an away game. And Plymouth Whitemarsh originally said thanks, but no thanks. However, whatever they were scheduling or trying to schedule has not come through, and I hear that the dialogue with them has now opened again because it's the exact spot they've been in the schedule the last 2 years.
And for us too, I brought this up every time we talk about the schedule. It's great for us to be like, oh, we should schedule so-and-so. Doesn't work. It's got
to be reciprocated, and too many people have said thanks, no thanks.
I'm like, you know who never says that? The people who have ins into how the scheduling works, because that's not how it works. We can call whoever we want. If they don't, 1, return the call, or 2, say, yeah, sure, it's not going to happen.
Yep.
It's not going to happen.
There are a variety of fellow District 3 teams, District 11 teams, and District 1 teams that have said
No thanks.
no. In Perkins Valley, I know, has said no. Plymouth Whitemarsh has said no, but now may not. I don't know if Nazareth said no, or if that was an agreement from both schools. That I don't know.
Right. I know after the game this year that both teams made it sound like that this wasn't necessarily going to be something that kept going in the future, but
who knows? Know. So, yeah, so that's where we're at for the schedule cycle. The way that the classifications work out has been posted, but the teams and how the schools align in those classifications has not yet been posted. That's probably coming out after Thanksgiving.
Right. So, like
early
some
December.
of the obvious ones, but the obvious ones aren't the news ones anyway, because you already knew where they were going to be. It's all those teams that are within a range of where the cutoff is going to be. That is the interesting point.
Yes. So. Yep, so that's where we're at with the schedule. I think just the last thing, Justin, and you and I usually talk about this on the last show of the season, is just to highlight what's coming back.
Yeah.
Because people, there are, as tough as it is for me to say this because people don't want to hear it, that there are other people like me that are, want to talk about Wilson football and what's coming, what's going to happen next year. And obviously, Justin and I will talk a ton more about that in the months to come, and depending on the type of guests we have on, it may or may not happen in February, March, April, May. But certainly once Memorial Day and summer come around, there will be a lot of focus on the fall 2026. But looking at it, of course, starting with everyone's favorite position, the quarterback position, Mason Young is a senior and will be graduating and moving on. So the Bulldogs will be looking for a new quarterback. Thankfully for them, they saw 5 people play quarterback this year, mostly because of the McCaskey game.
Right.
But there are a few underclassmen that are going to be fighting for that job. Yeah. First one you're going to start up with is probably the main backup this year, who will be a senior next year, and Cole Peterson. Yep. They'll decide if Cole is the guy to lead the offense or if he is also needed elsewhere on offense and continue his role on defense and special teams.
Right, because he played a lot on defense.
He played a lot on defense and special. He's the long snapper.
Yeah.
He plays linebacker or linebacker safety, depending on alignments. He could also be a guy that could play wide receiver. Right. So Cole Peterson will obviously be in that discussion because he's familiar with the position already, having been the backup to Mason Young and Maddox Gruber, so along with Mason last year. Then you have some of the current sophomores to be juniors next year in Pettit and Challenger. Both have opportunities there, as well as Sammy Diana. We saw him be a nice athletic option at quarterback. He got dinged against Manheim Township. Thankfully, it wasn't a serious injury, and he'll be able to enjoy his winter and spring seasons. But he'll be, I'm sure, into discussions initially about what's going to happen with quarterback in 2026. And that is it for discussion of the guys on the roster at the moment, on the varsity roster at the moment. We'll see what happens with, the 9th grade team that'll be sophomores next year.
Right.
And then anyone that they could be pulling up from the to-be freshmen.
Right.
So we'll see about that. Running back, we know Monty Greer is back. So we have another guy that's carried the rock now a few years. Can take over for Corell Akings. Obviously, there's also a plethora of guys behind him that can carry the ball as well. Tyler Ulrich, I thought, looked really well running the ball at times this year when the backups and JV were in. So that's someone to keep an eye on. But Monty Greer will be the main one, the main returner there. Out wide, Jackson Becker will be a key contributor.
Man. Every time he's on the field, and they kind of use them all over the place.
He's a nice utility slash guy.
Fast.
Yeah,
he's very fast.
I'd expect to see him two ways, safety and wide receiver. We'll talk defense here briefly, but Colin Youts back as well at wide receiver. Damian Greer obviously played a lot of wide receiver this year, and he's an excellent athlete. He'll be able to assume a bigger role next year as a junior. That's just a couple guys off the top of my head that I expect to see there.
Also Michael Glover.
tight end speaking.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, Mike Glover is back. Obviously, that helps the receiving unit in a big way. But so is Braden Farrell.
Yeah.
Which got to see him work on offense and defense.
And so go ahead.
And
Barima's back.
So Barima is there as well. So top 3 tight ends all returning.
Yeah.
All big bodies that can, we talked about it a lot last year when it was Mike with Christo and Cam and Brady. Jeez, I'm like, wait, where's the third one? Yeah, Brady Klein, Christo Hunziker, and Cam Zulinger with Mike Glover filling in as a sophomore. Those 3 moved on, and now we just kind of are bouncing right back there with a nice trio of tight ends coming back in 2026. Couple linemen back, which is always nice to have. It's Pro Preston Simons, I mentioned, he'll be back. He played offensive guard this year. And then David Wise, who we already saw him move over to left tackle after the injury to Avery, had some shuffling, and David ended up playing left tackle against Central York as well after moving over there in the game against York High. So Wise and Simons are back, and they may be your left side right there. So you got to find a center, got to find a right guard, got to find a right tackle. Already talking with the coaching staff, they're very high on a lot of guys that were backups and ready to go. Feel like another off season will do wonders for them along the offensive line. So I think I honestly heard about 6 or 7 names that they felt pretty comfortable with filling in those 3 open spots. So it should be a nice competitive group here once things get going as we get to Memorial Day for spring practice of who's going to fill in those 3 open spots. Same thing with defense. I mean, the same guys we're talking about offensive line are going to be mentioned with the defensive line. Obviously, Mike Glover's back at defensive end. We saw freshman Travis Bassoon really get rotated in the second half of the year.
Season went on, yeah.
And Barima also back as well. Yep. So 3 guys that have played that edge position.
And 3 really good athletes.
Really good athletes, really good athletes. So got to find the defensive tackles, got to find those run stuffers. And like I said, the coaches I talked to about it feel like they're going to have some guys that can fill in for the departing Malachi Tolles was the big guy that we're losing to graduation. Linebackers looking pretty good, though. Losing Ethan Harding, but have E.J. Brown back, Matthew Wyatt, Braden Farrell, and Cole Peterson all back, who all played a lot of linebacker this year. So not thin at linebacker.
Right.
Secondary, Monty's back. We're losing Chase Herb, but Monty's back. Jackson Becker is probably going to be that guy, I would think, to start unless they feel like they need him at corner. But he'll probably be a secondary piece, some defensive back. Jackson Becker filling in there. And he saw a little bit more time, especially once Eli went down with his injury and Eli wasn't able to fill in the secondary. Jackson Becker was back there to help out with Monty and Chase. So Monty's back. Jackson will be there. Damian Greer will probably pick up more defensive minutes. He played there as a freshman and then a bit this year when they needed him as a sophomore, usually to spell Carell or Jaden, who are both graduating. So you need both cornerbacks. You need to find a guy. I think Damian will be one of those. Got to find who's the other one going to be. A lot of options there as well. But Preston Oxenrider is back for year 2 as the place kicker.
Did a great job this year.
Fantastic. I think he was like 55 of 57 on extra points, and he was 1 of 1 on field goals. So a great freshman year. He had 2 touchbacks on kickoffs. He knows what he's got to work on to get better, and that's his strength and distance on those.
Even there, I felt like he got better.
He got better as the year went on. Yeah, I mean, honestly, we saw him give his best kick when he was kicking from like the 20 or whatever against Manheim Township.
It was a heck of a kick.
It was a great kick from him, and his potential is sky high. We started the show talking about the Central York place kickers. Having a freshman kicker, get his ears wet and know what's going on this season is only going to do great things for him. And having an alum, Jack Wagner, now working with him, who came on a few games into the season this year.
And if you look at that, I know for punts, I think it's Cole that has done the long snapping. I think Michael does it for the extra points.
Right.
This year. That's how they did it.
Yeah.
But like, no matter who's long snapping of those two, if it's those two, but like both those guys return. The holder was Jackson. He returns.
He's back.
And you have the kicker returning. So like that's not, I mean, I know
the specialist. Yeah.
Right. Like
it's
that,
great.
That battery there, all returning is good because that worked for us this year.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Yep. So, yeah. obviously would love to be like, hey, our quarterback's coming back, because having an established quarterback is great. But the cupboard's not bare. There's a handful of guys that are going to compete for that spot.
They're going to have their options, and somebody's going to have to go out and win it, which is a good spot to be. You want a guy to have to go out and win it. So.
Yeah. 100%. So it'll be interesting how the winter and spring go, and then once spring ball gets started, start to gather some information, and school gets out, and we got 7-on-7 in June, and that's where we really should find out what's going on, because by mid-July, when you're at team camp, you got to know who your quarterback is, and that's going to be on everyone's mind as to what's going on.
I still remember, was it the Colin Powers year where like he was there, but like it wasn't until camp that he kind of like seized that job.
Yeah, because he was competing with Klein.
Right.
But who kind of was in the role like that Cole's in right now, that they really wanted to use him on defense, especially at linebacker, which is where he ended up playing, because Powers ended up getting the job. And Colin Powers had a fantastic senior season for the Bulldogs in 2015, 10 years ago. First year of our show, by the way.
Yes.
So, yeah. And that's happened a few times,
I just saw him a couple months ago, too.
Colin?
Yeah.
Nice. So, but all right. Well, one last time, thank you again to our season 11 sponsors of the Bulldog Hour: May's Sandwich Shop, Gardner's Mattress and More, S&S Mechanical, and the Valley Bar and Grill. The Miller family, Realtor Eric Weiser, Berkshire Hathaway Homesale Realty, Mike Drago Sports, Andy Herr, the Challenger family, and our 2 anonymous donors. They will stay on board here as sponsors and get their shout outs as we embark on the start of season 12 and our 2026 season. Likely the end of February. That's usually where we kick things off. But it'll be up to the guests we reach out to and their availability, because Justin will like to do them in person. It's much better for us tech-wise and comfort level to not have to worry about delays with Google Chat or whatever we're using, Zoom. We can do those, which was great with Matt Ginter. When you live out of state, it makes it a little more difficult.
2/3 of the way across the country, and then that's how we'll do it. But if we can work it out where you're here, that'll be great.
Yeah. So last 2 things, felt bad because I wanted to mention last week and forgot. The girls water polo winning state championship, and they're 51-0 in the last two years, 2 state championships, undefeated. Congratulations to Coach Leckleitner, his assistants.
They also swept the postseason, like the
top
4
the big time awards,
the 4 big time awards. They swept all 4 of them.
So
awesome.
Congratulations to the girls water polo team for what an achievement. Yeah, not only state title, back-to-back state titles, back-to-back undefeated runs to get to those state titles. I wanted to mention last week and I forgot. The other thing was I posted just a few days ago, Brendan Morgan, a Wilson graduate, class of 2016, I believe, graduating class of 2016. Yes, yeah. He played football for me at Wilson West with Coach Fernsler. He just ran across the entire state of Pennsylvania. So I posted about it when he had just passed through Berks County. He was on the last day of his journey to get over across the bridge to New Jersey to complete the run. And I posted about it and tracked him throughout that run. So that was awesome. Congratulations to Brendan on that accomplishment. And he is one of the guys that maybe we'll get to talk to here in the winter on Bulldog Hour, or maybe on our other show. Justin and I do have another show for those not aware. Justin and I are not done on Sunday evenings. We are going to be right back at it, talking usually pro football, and we're right in the middle of NFL season. So if you're interested in what Justin and I have to say about the NFL and obviously his Eagles, join us at this time every Sunday.
Hey, your Dolphins, 2 games in a row, baby.
Yeah, great.
Ruin that draft.
Yeah, just keep ruining it. Justin and I will be back 6:30 every Sunday to talk about professional sports. It's called the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Very original. Very hard to find. But yeah, if you want to hear us talk about NFL or maybe some college football. Once we get to the spring, though, wide open for topics and discussions, and that's where we might get a few other guests in to talk about it. If Brendan's not on a Bulldog Hour, maybe we'll get him on the other show, because we've had other guests on and talk to other topics besides just sports, and it would be great to have people like that on the show. So anything else, Justin?
No, just thanks to the sponsors. It's great support, helps us, and by us I mean mostly you, but it does help us do the things that allow for the show to happen, and for the photos to happen, and all of that stuff that's show adjacent, even if it's not the show specifically, but also thanks to the coaches and the program and all the people who make it happen, who allow for us to have the access and are open and willing to kind of let us come along for the ride. Because honestly, if they didn't, it would, not that it couldn't happen, but it certainly couldn't happen in the way that it does. So that's much appreciated, and thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much to the sponsors and all the listeners. This was a great year. Certainly kicked off things, big numbers for us, which obviously helps with the sponsorships, getting them on the program and getting them to return, which is always the biggest thing, is having the people back for another year, or be here for 2, 3, 4 years is always appreciated. So thank you so much for the support, both on the live streams, on the podcasts, and with the pictures and just talking to us before and after games. Yeah, we love when people say they watch the show. It makes us feel good. I mean, we'd be doing it even if no one watched the show because, well, we just really like Wilson football. We like covering the kids and promoting them and getting their name out there. But it is great when we see a lot of people watch. So thank you. Appreciate it. And that's it for season 11. We'll be back for season 12, though. We're not going anywhere. So for the last time in 2025, for the entire Wilson football program, he's Justin Raffa. I'm Joe Mays. And until next time, remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.